Yes. Hello. How exciting this moment is on a Monday evening. Good evening to you all. Hope you're very well and safe and looking after each other and all those sort of fun things. It's Monday night. It is On the Ball, our live podcast record, which you're going to get to take in. It's episode number 97, which is quite a lot. For those wondering, I'm no further along planning number 100, so I probably should get on with that. I'm just going to share on Facebook the pod, as regular watchers will now be used to. Obviously, this works as quite a good way of me giving you all a bit of time to get in for those who want to get in, which is obviously very exciting. So yeah, I hope you're all well. I hope you recovered from the weekend. It was a long one for me. I hope you guys and girls didn't have quite as far to travel. And if you did, that you got to do it safely. I hope you survived all the storms. This is all very important information. I'm just sharing it to all these groups. I'll try not to share it to, any weird groups this time, like, something going on in Sprouston or Hidden Norwich. Although in fairness, why wouldn't Hidden Norwich want to know exactly what is happening on the On the Ball podcast? Hey. So there we go. Last couple, very exciting. And as I said, apologies, I can't physically do this quickly until we go live. So it's a bit of a screw up there, really. But the good thing is the buzzer is ready to go, which of course we're all very excited about. Who have we got on tonight? I hear you yelling back at me. Well, you'll be delighted to know we have this motley crew of Dan Brigham. There he is. He's in he waved there. He's going to wave good. He's in a library. Is that the ashes behind him? I don't know. I'm going to have to ask him about that. It's definitely some wisdom, isn't it? Yeah, and he's nodding. And we've got Rob Fletcher and Elliot Lake, who are our esteemed Norwich City supporters. There we go. Elliot also official song laureate, which I think he may have forgotten since we last dumped him with that title. That's exciting. We'll try and coax something out of him over the course of the podcast in terms of songs. Anyway, so there they are. We will hear from those guys in a bit. Get any comments and questions you want to ask in over the course of the podcast. We don't make a big thing of trying to go through them all, but we'll certainly pick out as many as we can and ask and answer any of them. So interact if you wish. No pressure though. And we'll do loads of other video stuff. I'm not gonna promise and underdeliver again. So you just know that I'm trying to turn out some videos over the course of the week. So if you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, then thanks for watching and keep watching and subscribed and things. It's enough rambling, I reckon. Or as Norwich's under 23s have just gone a goal down to Villa. There we go. I assume it wasn't a Christos Schollis own goal, but the way it's going for him tonight, we might not rule it out. Let's crack on, shall we? So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hope you get involved. And we'll see you on the other side, shall we? I reckon so. Let's crack on with the opening music. Here we go. Hello all and welcome to the 97th edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that will never do another Scottish accent unless Hodge is on. I'm Michael Bailey. I cover the Canaries for The Athletic and I hope this finds you safe and well. On the way, a main course and mixed salad for City. That one does work much better written down at 4 minutes 7 seconds, and Saints redemption for Smith. Obviously, we will work through all that and more with our guests this fine evening. We have former Norwich City head of content and program editor, Dan Brigham.
Hi, Michael. Good to see you.
Likewise. We also have Norwich City fans, past podcasters, and official On the Ball double act. It's Rob Fletcher.
Hi, Michael. Good to see you.
There he is. And aptly titled after his debut, our own song laureate, Elliot Lake.
Hello, Michael. Hello, Rob and Dan. How is everybody?
Awesome. We're all awesome. Thank you, Elliot. And thanks for joining us. And thank you, everyone out there watching live and listening on your podcast feeds. Here we go then. Dan, how are you?
I'm really good, thanks, Michael. Yeah, doing all right. I've survived the storms so far, touch wood. Probably glad I didn't have to go up to Anfield. Interested in hearing about how your journey was back from there.
Well, it was a bit wet and long. And I didn't get back until like Sunday lunchtime. So it was
almost worth it though.
Almost. I was traveling
for 4 minutes or whatever it was. It was almost worth it.
I'll be honest. I was traveling there thinking, the last time I went to see Norwich play against one of the really big teams away from home, it was 7-0, and that this could be quite a long weekend, maybe not to pin anything on the football, which I think is why, in my video verdict, I was like 3-1 defeat. I'll probably take that, and then I got a bit of criticism for it, but that's okay. That's fine. We've all got our opinions, and we'll discuss those in a moment. Rob, good evening to you. How are you?
Hi, Michael. Yeah, all good. Thank you. All good. I enjoyed 16 minutes of the Liverpool game at the weekend when we were winning. I was watching in silence because we had a lot of family around. I was back at my parents in Norfolk and had all the family in the living room. And I had to have the football on, but I couldn't have the sound on. So I watched it in silence and suffered in silence as Liverpool scored goal after goal.
Ouch. I mean, at least you're allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
That's not bad for a family trip.
I know. Yeah.
I'm sure you won't get stick for it from here on in. Elliot, how are you? Lovely to see you resplendent in your Norwich shirt as well.
Yeah, cheers, Michael. You got to get it on, haven't you? I think for the podcast. But obviously I live in Bristol at the minute, so I haven't been able to go down to the ground as often as I would have liked. So I've got to wear it when I get the opportunity.
Did you wear it much around Bristol?
I wear it every time I play football. How does that go down? Yeah, it goes great. I really enjoy seeing people wear random kits who you wouldn't necessarily see in that type of place. So I think I've got to wear it for the Norwich boys.
Fair enough, but then Norwich are massive. So is it a random kit anywhere in the world? That's the question you've got to ask. If you had Tim Closer written on the back of your shirt, would that go down well at the moment in Bristol or not?
Who's he playing for?
Bristol City.
Is he Bristol City now? Is he? I didn't know that.
It's going that well.
Yeah, I know. If I was to choose a Bristol side, it would be Bristol Rovers for me, 100%.
Poor Tim. Yeah, well, there we go. I mean, I don't know how well it's doing, but I think they did win at the weekend because he put something slightly more positive on his Instagram feed. That's as much as I've been looking into it. I'll save my championship preparations for March. Freudian slip there. I tell you what, probably. Yeah, I know. Quick. I've already condemned ourselves to defeat before kickoff at Liverpool and now relegation. Let's move on quickly then, in that case, shall we, to our headline act. I still haven't altered the volume of the stings, so prepare your ears. Yes, indeed. 60 minutes gone and it was all looking so good. Not long after, we could all return to our theories that we'd rather win the FA Cup tie anyway. Norwich did lose 3-1 at Liverpool. But Dan, was it better to have led than to have never led at all?
It was definitely better to have conceded when we did than, say, injury time. If we'd been holding out for another sort of 20 minutes into the 90th minute and then they'd gone and scored twice in 2 minutes, would have been much harder to take. And it's odd how football kind of changes your emotions like that. At half time, I was barely nervous. We were drawing 0-0, fully expected us to win. But as soon as we went 1-0 up, that's when the nerves really started to kick in, because that's when the hope was turned up a notch. That's when you suddenly start thinking about how am I going to celebrate on the 90th minute when we pull off 3 incredible points. And obviously, sadly, it wasn't quite to be, but it was encouraging. If you compare it, as you mentioned, the game where we lost 7-0 to, was it 7-0 earlier in the season to Chelsea?
All 7. Yeah.
Then it was an entirely different performance. I mean, Liverpool will routinely win by 2 goals against some of the best clubs in Europe. There's no real shame in it. We competed really well. We defended well, and most importantly, what we did do against Liverpool that we hadn't done against Man City is cause them problems as well. We looked like a threat when on the few occasions we actually got on the ball and were a bit more careful with it and went forward with a bit more threat than we had against Man City, and which is what Dean Smith had asked for, and it seemed like that had sunk in training, obviously, and they'd picked that up and run with it.
Rob, you mentioned that you enjoyed the first or the 16 minutes the Norwich were leading. What did you make of Norwich's entire performance up until that point? Because Liverpool had some really good chances really early on, but actually they did grow into the game really nicely.
Yeah, I think I probably misspoke, actually. I have to echo Dan's sentiment in that I enjoyed the first 45 minutes and then some until we scored, and then was a nervous wreck, really, whilst we were winning. Obviously, it'd be great to beat Liverpool away, but it's also, I don't know, in the kind of every point is so valuable at the moment. If we don't win after being in a winning position, that's 2 points lost, as opposed to if we lose from being in a drawing position, it's only 1 point lost, which I know is very defeatist, but that's the kind of the situation we are in at the moment. But I thought we played really well, to be honest. I think it's a bit of a pattern in matches recently, especially of we tail off quite significantly towards the end of the game. Our best players tail off. I mean, Rashidska in this case, in the last few games, he has been fantastic in parts in the sort of first 2/3 of the game, but then once he loses that sort of burst, that sort of quickness of feet, he really suffers, and we suffer as a team. I thought the first 2 goals that Liverpool conceded were frustrating in that they weren't very good. They weren't high in quality. They weren't ones, for example, the first match of the season when they came to Carrow Road, it was I can't remember the third or one of the 3 goals, but I know a couple of them were just Salah being world class, and that's fine. I'll take that. But the first 2 goals we conceded, one after the other, were so avoidable. The third one was better or more incisive, at least, and a class finish from Diaz. But the first 2 were really frustrating and left me feeling a bit sort of hollow after that.
I think that's allowed. I mean, I hadn't quite appreciated at the time how good the pass was from Jordan Henderson for the third goal. It was just exquisite, as good as Luis Diaz's run was as well. But that's a quite an interesting point, Elliot. I mean, I've last week I wrote a piece on The Athletic about Manchester City's victory coming from a lot of Norwich City defensive errors, really, in terms of the goals they conceded, especially the one from the corner. And this week I've written a bit that's sort of just taken apart completely the 4 minutes from Jurgen Klopp making his 2 substitutions to Liverpool winning the ball and then to being 2-1 up. And it took 4 minutes, 7 seconds, including 35 minutes of celebrating in the middle, 35 seconds of celebrating in the middle. But, little details, I think, like from the restart where, Billy Gilmour tried to break Liverpool's press rather than just keeping the ball and recycling. And it almost felt like, in a way, Elliot, Norwich haven't really been in that position before. They just conceded a goal and they were leading, and they almost wanted to chase what they had lost rather than sit back and go, hang on, if we're still 1-1 here, let's literally just try and kill this game as much as we can for 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, and especially with that sort of thing, I think had we sat back and tried to go back into that shape that we were in for the whole of the first half, pretty much, I think we could have definitely still maybe got something out of the game. But yeah, it kind of happens with those big teams. Like, I don't think Liverpool played particularly well, and I think we defended really well throughout the whole game. It was just, as you say, those 4 minutes where we just lost the concentration, and it is obviously disappointing because you go 1-0 up in a game like that. And I was watching with a few Liverpool fans, so I was absolutely loving it for that 16 minutes that we were 1-0 up. It was brilliant. And obviously I had to get my stick in early because I knew that there was every chance they would get back in the game at some point. But yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't, having not watched the game back, I didn't notice the Billy Gilmour press. But I think on another occasion they could have maybe sat back a little bit more and tried to defend that 1-1. But yeah, it's disappointing.
It was a bit disappointing. Let's go through it slightly chronologically. Rob, I'll come to you first. I mean, Milot's goal. I mean, I kind of wondered if Josh Sargent took a really bad first touch, didn't he, at one point, but still managed to actually do quite well hold up play. Although even then, I was kind of like, this whole opportunity is disappearing because you just ran from one side of the box to the other. But it works out. And Dean Smith did also say that he thought it was probably going in anyway, the shot, before it deflected off Matip. What would be your verdict on whether that shot was probably going in anyway?
I think it was going on target, but I feel like we will give Alisson enough credit to assume that he would have saved it. I think he's quite good as a goalkeeper.
It's the correct answer. But brilliant for a Kosovan footballer to have scored in the Premier League now, of course.
Yes. And a fun fact about Kosovo, apparently there are lots of children born there in the early noughties who are called Tony Blair, after Tony Blair, for the interventions that the UK government had in Kosovo. So apparently he's kind of revered slightly. So that's something.
Are we expecting that the next time Rashica scores to lift up his shirt to reveal a photo of Tony Blair's face underneath there?
Why not? Let's see if we can we get that trending? I don't know what that would look like as a hashtag, to be honest. I was hoping maybe, now the next lot of Kosovan children will all be named Milot. So let's hope so. After obviously Norwich's Premier League saviour, which is all we can possibly dub him now. In terms of the first two goals Norwich conceded, Dan, how do you view them?
Yeah, what I would say is, against a bit like us when we're in the Championship, against teams like Man City and Liverpool, they dominate so relentlessly throughout the 90 minutes, and they have the ball in your third for so long that mistakes are kind of inevitably going to happen. And to get away with a point or 3 points against those two sides in particular, you kind of need them to fluff their lines when they get those chances, and which Liverpool did in the first 5 minutes when they could have scored a couple, but didn't later on. So I do think, as much as Dean Smith was right to sort of pick up on that, especially after Man City, and there was a bit of a mess, and especially Liverpool's second goal was a mess, to be done like that from an excellent ball from Alisson, of course, but to be done like that and quite so out of position wasn't ideal. But at some point, those back four or that back five and that midfield are going to make errors against such good sides, and you just got to hope that they don't punish them. It's interesting, actually, because I thought Max Aarons had a really good game, despite maybe the potential mistake that led to Mane's goal. Although we have had a comment in from Julian Scott at 8:10 p.m. who says he's a big fan of Max, but he lost his marker Mane, who scored. This follows costly mistakes in the previous two games. Time for Max to get a well-earned break. Myram is a terrific defender. I mean, Max, it was a bit of a Giannoulis thing, taking him off so early against Man City, I thought. But he had a bit of a torrid time. But I actually think he's been, for a team that's had to defend a lot this season, has been, again, good. And I still maintain we're very lucky to have him. But Sam Byram is certainly knocking at the door, isn't he?
He is. And the way I see it playing out in my head at the moment is that Sam Byram plays in the FA Cup game at Liverpool. And then that's a real opportunity. If he does really well in that game against Mane and Norwich win like 1-0, they keep a clean sheet, then that is and Max, I don't know, makes a mistake against Southampton, then I guess the narrative is, if you're going to have that competition, maybe there is that discussion there. But I mean, the thing with Max, I thought he got slightly caught out by Mane, but there probably wasn't a lot of communication going on, because he either has to pick up Mane or play him offside, one or the other. But Grant Hanley's been slightly pulled out. Josh Sargent's really done nothing to stop Tsimikas. And Elliot, I'll ask you this: should Angus Gunn have stopped the overhead? I mean, it was an amazing overhead kick. Obviously, it's hard, completely exposed, but it wasn't exactly miles away from Angus, who seemed to sort of be falling back as it hit him rather than trying to stop it. Yeah,
I mean, it was so close to the goal though, and Mane did get a fairly good connection on it, for an overhead kick like that. I think Gunn played really well in the two previous games against Palace and City, but it was. I mean, I think that'll be really, really harsh to say he could have saved it. I think that's such an instinctive. So a goalie like De Gea you'd expect maybe to save that because he's so good with his feet, but Gunn, I think it's really difficult to say that he should have saved that. I don't know what you think, Dan and Rob, but I think maybe the second goal he could have done a bit better, obviously with the slip. But
I agree with the overhead kick. I feel that it would have been a really difficult save, just because from the position where Mane hit the ball, he can't guess where the trajectory is going to be. Whereas if you take a shot off the ground, you have due to like body position and things like that, you can guess how high up in the goal you'd be needing to save. It was, and he had to hedge his bets essentially. So yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it's one of those where a goalkeeper kind of just has to flap their arms around a bit and hope for the best. And sadly, it didn't. He didn't make contact with the ball this time. What is he? He's 5 yards out or 6 yards out, and he's connected it well, hasn't he?
Said like a true 5-side goalkeeper there, Dan. Good to hear.
You would know.
That. I mean, I have to say, I don't feel any. I thought Angus did all he needed to do probably for the second goal. I don't think that, I know he slipped, but I thought there was probably only one player on the pitch who would have been able to make the goalkeeper slip and also wrong foot 2 defenders on the line and manage to just roll the ball in. I mean, Mo Salah is a phenomenal player to watch play, and some of the way he's like, I don't know what it is. It's like his turning circle is about half the size of everyone else's. It's literally like he's on a cheat mode on FIFA, I guess. Dan, I can see you wanting to chip in.
What I would say about, and Gunn's actually, as Elliot said, has been really good in the last 3 games. What I would say is, from that Alisson's goal kick, our defence is really high, but Gunn starts really deep. So there's been some sort of miscommunication there, because they should never be that far apart from. So something's gone wrong there. But yeah, you can't legislate for a slip, and Salah's one of the best players in the world right now. So
that goes back to your point, mate. That goes back to your point, Michael, maybe about being too high after the kickoff. Maybe you were pressing too high, and maybe that's the error that Dan's referring to there. But yeah, maybe that's not a Gun mistake. That's a defensive mistake.
It's a good point, because the bit that led to Alisson getting the ball, Brandon Williams has made a massive overlapping run on Milot and doesn't get the ball, which is why Kenny McLean is basically picking up Mo Salah at that point. But again, the fact that he has made that run on a 3-man counter, sort of says where Norwich were in terms of committing bodies forward, I suppose, in that very moment, having just conceded a goal. I think that's fair enough. I think that's covered everything off there. I think we've done that bit. So, and what I was going to say is that everyone should really be thanking Norwich, because had Norwich have taken points off Liverpool, then no one would have had this title race they're all so excited about after Manchester City lost to Spurs. So, you're welcome, everyone, is what I say there. Hopefully we get our due reward for that. Because you look at elsewhere, I mean, it was funny for me watching the mood that everyone became quite, upset because, Watford won at Villa and Burnley won at Brighton. Obviously, Newcastle had taken a draw off West Ham, and, Norwich were always, I thought, probably going to not pick anything up from Liverpool or, in fact, these 2 games. Yet, a lot of people were declaring on the final whistle, Rob, that's it. We've gone down now. We've blown it. It's like, well, the teams were going to win. I mean, does it really alter the picture so much?
If those same people were fully aware that 2 matches ago we were playing Man City and Liverpool, and are still disappointed that we got no points from that, I don't think that they appreciate how good Man City and Liverpool are. I mean, Liverpool have won, I don't know how many games in a row. Man City have only dropped points in 2 matches out of what seems like forever. I don't think losing to both those teams changes anything. They're not the teams that we need to beat if we want to stay up. It's a really informed Southampton who we need to get points from. It's, Palace a few weeks ago, and Brentford, teams like that who we need to be getting the points from. I don't think it changes anything.
Elliot?
Yeah, I just want to say that, like, speaking to, I live with a few Liverpool fans, and I think that how they viewed our performance in that on Saturday was that we did defend well, and that's one of the most difficult games they've had against Norwich, maybe since the 1-1, I think, when Grant Holt scored in 2011, maybe under Chris Hughton. But I think generally they felt like Norwich has always been an easier fixture, but for them, especially the first half was we did really well. And as Rob says, we can't be expected to pick up points against those teams. It is the next 2-3 games where we are, we're really going to have to pull something out of the bag.
Well, let's hope we're having that conversation that reflects that after Southampton and beyond. That will certainly be the plan. Right, in that case, I think that is that. Let's move on, shall we, to a bit of this. I'm sure everyone loves that sting. Yes, it is. Pick that one out, where the podders each get a short window to bring up an issue they're struggling to let go. If they lose themselves for more than 30 seconds, then the buzzer does sound. And it's time to let it go, maybe. Who would like to go first? Rob, would you like to go first? Put you on the spot?
Yeah, let's do it.
Good man. All right, then. Well, you're good to go about now-ish?
So I've been sort of aware of this for a while, but haven't really cared too much. So it's basically the disparity in the number of games played on the table, and how it affects reading the situation of the league. So I know that people have said before, oh, maybe it's better to have the points on the board rather than the games in the hand, etc., etc. But this morning I was looking at the Bundesliga table for some reason, and I looked in. Every single team has played 23 matches, and it's really refreshing to look at a league table where everyone's played the same amount of matches, and you get such a better representation of how teams are performing. I wish we had that right now, especially down at the bottom.
I think I did read something that Burnley have got like about 9 home games or something daft. 9 home games, and Norwich got 6, something like that, which made me sort of wince a little bit. But there we go. Try not to think about it. Norwich just need their 5 wins from here until the last couple, and then they'll be on 9 with a couple of games to get that 10th, and then they'll stay up. That's it. People want a road to success. That's the one. Road to survival. Dan, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll go.
Go for it.
Okay, so I think 8:15 is an absolutely insane time for an association football match to be kicking off, which is what's happening next week in the FA Cup when we have to go to Anfield again. It's disrespectful to the Norwich fans or any away fans who have to make that journey, and probably if it goes to penalties, it'll probably be finishing around 11:30, nearly midnight. So that's a 5 a.m. return on Club Cabbage for anyone going on the coaches coming back from Liverpool. 8:15, you should have had your tea. You should be thinking about, maybe is it time to go to bed? What you shouldn't be doing is watching Michael McGovern saving Origi's penalty to put us through at midnight.
Oh yeah, you should. What a moment!
Not be doing that ITV at midnight.
What you shouldn't be doing is working, because I think if I don't know what time that game's going to be finished in terms of on the pitch, but we will be there for another hour and a half.
You're staying over that night then, Michael?
I will be staying over, yeah. I suspect I'll be being escorted out of Anfield by 4 stewards, thinking I'm a loitering fan, as happened on Saturday. Didn't even believe my pass. They walked me out of the ground. It's like, okay, fair enough. Hopefully they let me back in. Maybe I should be more worried about that. Chris Gorham did make that joke to me on the way out outside the ground, and then I got really worried. So if I'm not allowed into Anfield, everyone knows.
I've probably got posters of your face up all over the press room now.
Yeah, probably. Have you seen this fan? Which is fine. I mean, if I was doing one of these rants, I would probably do it on the Leeds fixture being moved back to the Sunday from the Saturday. That's in like 3 weeks' time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because Leeds have got a rearranged fixture that's taking place in the week before that's going to be on Amazon, I think, because presumably they didn't get the Amazon fixture last time.
Has it moved Wednesday to Thursday night kickoff, haven't they?
Yeah, so now the Leeds game, the Norwich's trips to Leeds, is now Sunday at 2:00 rather than Saturday. And that's 3 weeks after all the tickets were sent out, and I'm sure most people have booked their travel, so that's really considerate. But let's be honest, the Premier League and the EFL don't probably care too much about what the supporters do, because they just assume they'll go anyway, if they're being realistic, which isn't how it should be, and that's not how fans should be treated. Bonus points there for you, Dan, for using the word association football in full. I
didn't realise bonus points were at stake here.
I've just made them up.
I'll bear that in mind for next time.
I've definitely recorded that. Elliot, would you like a go to round us off?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Good. It was a rhetorical question anyway.
Yeah.
Away you go.
Okay, so my pet peeve is it's stuck with me for a while, but I don't understand why more people don't get the names of their favourite players on the back of their shirts. I really think however old you are, if you're going down to Carrow Road, you must have a favourite player. You could be 70, you can be 6, but one of those players on that pitch has got to be a favourite player. So get him on the back of your shirt, give him some support. If there's a young player coming through and all of a sudden he sees 50 fans with him on the back of their shirt, surely that's going to give him a massive boost when he's coming through to the first team. I don't know.
I love this one. I mean, it didn't work for Ricky Van Wolfswinkel when they only charged a £5. But as speaking as someone who would always get someone's name on the back of the shirt, it was generally, Elliot, I don't know how you do this, but most of them either got injured or were sold. It's Craig Bellamy, Keith O'Neill, Neil Adams missed a penalty. That was quite a seismic event. Who have you got on the back of your shirt there?
I've got Omobamidele on this one.
Wow.
I think I showed you last time.
That's flaunting, isn't it? That's like more expensive than a gold chain. You're literally looking at the back of my shirt going, this cost me 54 quid.
Yeah, but you never see another Omobamidele, do you? You've never seen one.
A credit here to Dean Smith, because Dean Smith about 4 weeks ago, he was struggling to pronounce his name. He couldn't really do it to the point where at one point Norwich had lost, and he was doing a press conference with a smile on his face, and he was like, and then Andrew, I can't even pronounce his name, which probably wasn't a great look for the head coach. And I think he was quite aware of that, because now he nails it properly every time. I think he realized he probably does need to know how to say his name in a press conference. So fair play to Dean for that. But that's not the same as spending 54 quid to get it on the back of your shirt. So fair play to you, Elliot. Dan, would you have a name on the back of your shirt?
No, I never have. And that's not a good conscious decision or anything. Even as a kid, and I had lots of favourite players, Mark Robbins, Darren Eadie, never ended on the back of my shirt for some reason. No name has, not my own either. Where do you stand on having your own? Would you have Lake on the back of yours, Elliot?
No, I don't think I would. I mean, but if say Dan, if you had a 93 shirt with Darren Eadie on the back now, how much would you love to wear that? That would be absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I've still got my 92-93 shirt, but it's blank. And just rest assured, I don't still wear it as well.
I mean, I'm obviously an old man, so I remember having to you couldn't get the lettering and the numbers that you wanted, so I had to sort of cut them out at one point. I remember trying to cut out numbers so they looked like Adidas numbers at one point. It was, what a saddo. There we go. That was my teenage life. Rob, have you got a name on the back of any? You got 3 shirts behind you. I can see the names on the back of those.
No names on any of them. Well, I mean, 2 of them, because they're the Centennial ones, have lots of names, the season ticket holders. But,
everyone's name. That's true.
But no names on the back, no. My dad has Fletcher on the back of his, but it was a birthday present, so a 70th birthday present. So it's got Fletcher and 70.
Fletcher 70. It's a classic.
Yeah.
Classic. Well, one day the squad numbers will go up to 70, I'm sure. Great work, guys. What were the other things that we were not going to talk about that I've got on here? Well, a couple of women's football lines. Norwich City have officially absorbed the women's football team into the club's day-to-day running, which for most people will be like, well, obviously, why hasn't that been the case? So it seems like a good move. And I think it would be great for the football club to have a really strong women's football team, even though it's not really a level playing field in terms of in the east of England. But there's a piece on that on The Athletic. And of course, England's women played at Carrow Road over the weekend, which I didn't get to. I would have quite liked to have gone, and it would have been lovely to have seen Lauren Hemp playing at Carrow Road, having started off her incredible football journey here in Norfolk in a Norwich shirt with a signed ball at her foot, which was a lovely image she shared on one of the social medias. And a final shout out to friend of the podcast, Cedric Unsalan, who has been granted indefinite leave to remain in the UK, which is aces because it's Cedric, and that's lovely. So I think that mops up everything there. So let's have a bit of centrefold action next, I reckon. Now, we can go as in depth as we want on this conversation, but it doesn't have to be a particularly big one. But it struck me on Saturday, Josh Sargent went down holding his Achilles, I think, or he had a slight, awkward fall, bit of treatment, and I was like, oh dear, Norwich are actually potentially really screwed if they lose one more forward. So I did want to discuss this because obviously the terrible news, really, especially for Adam Eder, is that he is out for the rest of the season, pretty much. They expect it was sort of most likely was the way Dean Smith couched it, which I guess means that, there's potential for him to come back maybe for the last game, but do you risk it, I suppose, and all that sort of argument. It's a real shame because he needed a knee operation, and we are probably at the point in the campaign now where it doesn't take as much of an serious injury to rule you out for the remaining games because we've only got a couple of months to go. So I guess the question is, Dan, have Norwich, what do Norwich just need to hope everyone stays fit from this point? Have they, even without Adam, have they got enough in their attacking lineup to stay up?
I don't think. Well, first off, it's really awful news for Adam Eder, obviously, who's just sort of reinvigorated the Norwich side since he came back into it. And one thing that he did do was allow us to play with that sort of 4 up top when we had the ball, which we did to some success as well against Watford, and in the win before that as well, which for some reason I've forgotten.
Everton at home.
So playing 4 up top, but that really depended on those 4 players. So Rashica, Pukki, Eder, and Sargent being fit. Anyone drops out of that front 4, and the replacements probably aren't quite up to scratch. So now, if you went to go 4 up front again, you'd probably play Sargent through the middle with Pukki, but then you're leaving Jonathan Rowe, who's obviously very inexperienced and be asking too much of him potentially. Or you've got Chollis, who's just clearly not trusted yet. Or you've got Dow, who doesn't really sort of suit that system as more of a kind of a technical number 10 style player. So what it has done is probably made us a bit more one-dimensional again, going back to the sort of 4-3-3 that Dean Smith started with. And it does go back to the recruitment when Rashica, who has been excellent and is clearly a good Premier League player and is an excellent signing, but when Rashica, Chollis and Sargent has scored 3 Premier League goals between them, I think, this season, and when Chollis, however much the club like to say he was one for the future, we still spent 10 million on him, and he's made 3 Premier League starts this season. Just repeating ourselves, and lots of people have said this before, we're not in the position where we should be spending 10 million quid of which equated to sort of 1/5 of the money we spent on a player who we didn't think was ready. And interestingly, actually, I went back to check the canaries.co.uk news story when we signed Chollis, and there was no mention of him being one for the future and being maybe not one for this season. That seems to be a thing that has come in retrospect now. I would be very surprised, and you're obviously close to the club, Michael, so I'd be very surprised if they saw him only starting 3 games by the end of February in the Premier League.
I think they were sort of underneath it. They were keen to say that it wouldn't make an immediate impact. So the question was, probably by this point, they would have expected him to be sort of hitting the ground running, really. I think they kind of knew that he hadn't played that much football in Greece, which I think was probably the key point. So they were probably expecting him to take the first 2-3 months to really get acclimatized, start hitting the ground running. And then by the time he got into this year, he'd look sort of settled and be involved. I mean, they certainly, it's not only the starts. I don't think they would have envisaged him, playing in the under-23s because he hasn't played any football, and also probably getting a clear shot of an open goal and ruffling the side netting, which he's done tonight, which I guess, makes it quite difficult. And I suppose one of the things I was thinking, Rob, is that, with Adam being out, that would be an opportunity for Christos, but he does seem to be, well down the pecking order at the moment. And, Dean Smith's done a pretty good job of molding what he wants to do and finding the most effective option with the players at his disposal. But in this instance, it doesn't look like he's so fussed about Christos being one of those players at his disposal while he's got other players there, I suppose. And the interesting thing will be where he fits in come the FA Cup tie at Liverpool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to look with hindsight as to how important that missed penalty was in the League Cup. Again against Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yep.
It's only just
No wonder they always think they get easy wins. Yeah, carry on.
Where he took the ball with such confidence and probably missed the penalty. I, having not watched those of him before, so when his time in Greece, I would assume that looking at our team now, he would want to slot in at the other side of a front three, rather than play through the middle, just because of his play style. I don't think he's got too much competition. I don't think Placheta is sort of setting the world alight in the Premier League technically yet. I think he's playing well in terms of his work rate and sort of hustling. And I agree. I think Dowell is not a direct comparison. We wouldn't. I think they're completely different players in their style. I wouldn't want Dowell coming in from the wing. I don't think he's looked very effective when he's been there. And Jonathan Rowe is, very inexperienced, but seems to be preferred. As why? I have no idea. The £10 million for Norwich, I wouldn't want Norwich spending £10 million if they're not intending to integrate them within the first team almost immediately. We are not in a position to be spending that much money and not getting immediate returns, or intending to get immediate returns. So, it's slightly confusing. Obviously, I hope it comes good. I think I remember someone saying, I believe it was probably you, Michael. You're the person who talks about Norwich most that I listen to. So, God forbid we do go down. He must be open, or we hope he's open to staying, and maybe in the Championship, just getting consistent minutes and learning his trade would be better for him. Obviously, I hope we don't go down, but
yes, no, we're not going. Obviously, that's a given. Obviously, as we discussed at the very start of this podcast. But that's the interesting thing, I suppose, because if Dean Smith has to rate him, even if Norwich are in the Championship, and has to be able to trust him. He's probably, Elliot, the one bit of recruitment that maybe is most questionable, because ultimately Christos plays in the same position as Milot Rashica. So you're only really going to be, both of them like to play on the left and come in. So you obviously want backup options, but by that very nature, you've spent 10 million quid on a player who's only ever going to either come on to replace them, Milot, or, whichever. And he sort of always struck me as this player that Norwich probably would have been better off buying had they have had a year in the Premier League, and then they were sort of building up the squad, so that he'd have had the time rather than throwing him in. I mean, if you'd have taken the fee and put 3 million quid onto a couple of other positions, you'd have ended up probably with better players in the other pieces of recruitment.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you, I think obviously everyone really hoped that he was going to be. I think didn't Farkas say at some point he was going to be worth 100 million? Did he say that?
Probably. But I think he definitely did say he was one of the most highly rated, young prospects in Europe, basically.
Yeah, is he still? He's still 19 or 20, but that's still very young. I think Rob's absolutely right. It's difficult to expect so much of these young players when they come in from abroad. He's never played in the Premier League before. I think that is difficult. And just going back to the point about where the goals are going to come from. I think now Rashica's has got his first one on the board. I mean, let's really hope that he can maybe turn that into a few more coming into the last stages of the season, because that's one thing that we have really lacked is other goal scorers in the team. Obviously, Ida got his first one the other week, but he's obviously now out. Sargent got a couple, but if Rashica can maybe just get another 4 or 5 goals before the end of the season, you never know, that could get us a few really crucial points.
Love it. I think, go Rob.
I was going to say one thing was it sounds like, if anyone's watching, people will be watching and listening, but it sounds like I'm scraping the barrel, and it is slightly, but Rashica's offside goal against Liverpool, he took really well. And it could be things like that which has given confidence. A scrappy deflection, he put the ball in the back of the net, even if it was offside. So it's all of those things which hopefully will sort of build up a sense of or a confidence, and he can build on that when it comes to goal scoring.
Which you've
looked like his goal meant a lot to him. It looked like it really meant a lot to him when he scored. So let's hope that's that's important as well, isn't it? If he's really desperate to stay up, then he's going to want to do well.
I have to say, I spoke to him after the game, and he did seem genuinely disappointed. Sometimes people will get their first goal and they'll be able to afford themselves a smile or whatever. He genuinely, although it meant a lot to him at the time, I think the fact that the game unraveled, I think that hurt actually. So that bodes well. I mean, you mentioning his offside goal that he took so well has reminded me of the chance Teemu Pukki had at Anfield where he didn't even hit the target. I think Teemu's in one of those spells at the moment, which hopefully will end soon because we really need him to be scoring. And just the conversation there, gents, does kind of lead on to the question about January. Was it, Dan, a mistake not to bring anyone in, not to bring another forward option in, or is it just you cannot legislate for someone being out for the rest of the season in mid-February?
Well, you can absolutely legislate for someone being injured because injuries happen all the time, and you can legislate for your attacking options to not have enough depth. But that's not just a January thing. That's a summer thing as well. Whether it's a number 9, I'm not so sure. I think what we do lack, as we've just covered, is probably proper attacking wide options, or wide forwards is what we really lack. And I put Sargent in that front 4, but he was great against Watford, scored 2 really good goals. But he's not set the world on alight still. He's still also a very young man. So we really are expecting Dean Smith to work some sort of miracles to get that Norwich City side scoring plenty of goals. What I would say though is what will help is our midfielders coming back from injury, and it was really great to see Matthias Norman start and play pretty well against a very good midfield as well.
Well done. We haven't mentioned Matthias Norman. Good shout that. Yes, indeed. Absolutely, Dan. There's a quote from Steve. Let me read it out. Steve McDonald. There we go. Sometimes expectations can be set too high, so it feels worse when they're not meeting them, which is, an argument. But I mean, I guess for Norwich in the Premier League, it's expectations always feel a bit high, out of reach sometimes.
Elliot mentioning that Farke suggested that Charles could be a £100 million player at one day. Just reminded me when we signed Marcus Edwards on loan, if anyone remembers him, and Pochettino said he was the best young player he's seen since Messi. So that was setting the bar quite high.
But you do know he's now playing at Sporting Lisbon.
Is it Sporting Lisbon?
Yes, yeah, he moved to Sporting Lisbon in January. So effectively, he was right. More questions for Daniel Farke to answer. Just one here from Wetness Jones. Rara Rashid's lover of pepperoni pizza. I don't know if that's a song or an observation or just Wetness Jones feeling that is what Milot does like doing. But I was just wanting to get our song laureate's verdict on the Rashidza chant. Are you a fan, Elliot?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's really good.
It's a strong one.
It's
good. You did mention about, maybe we'd have like an Andrew Omabamidele song next time you're on, but
I've had a go, but I don't think it's very good, to be honest with you. Don't be shaking his head.
Have you heard this, Rob?
No, but I can picture it.
Okay. Well, we'll call it a work in progress until he's back. He's back playing.
Sounds good.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that one this time.
It's too many syllables to improvise, I think.
Too many. If you can afford to put it on his shirt, you can afford to produce a song. They're the rules. Right. In that case, I tell you what. Let's move us on to a little look ahead into our crystal balls.
This is almost fantasy football.
Which did indeed sound more Partridge than Motti, but there we go. Norwich, what are we expecting from them in the next 7 days? Well, we can tell you this much. They're heading to Southampton on Friday night, which is, of course, St Mary's, where a 1-0 defeat for Dean Smith cost him his Aston Villa job. So Dan, do you imagine if Dean Smith's heading back there, he'll be full of all those memories of such a horrible evening and want to put it all right?
Well, he put it to bed pretty quickly, didn't he? Because he obviously beat Southampton in his first game for Norwich City. So,
True.
which leaves us in an unusual position in the Premier League of having the chance to do a double over someone. And I think, wasn't it last time we played Southampton, they came off the back of a really good run, which they are on now. They've lost one game since Christmas, and drawn with Man City, Man United, beaten Spurs in that run. So it's going to be tough. But I do, we've played well against teams in the bottom half of the table under Dean Smith overall. We've had a few poor halves here and there, and COVID obviously affected us against when we lost 3-0 at Palace. But we have got a sort of way of playing now and a resolute way of defending that we didn't have before. So I think we can go to Southampton with a bit of confidence, and we kind of need to, because with Southampton, Brentford, and Leeds coming up, everyone knows those games are big for us. 6 points sort of minimum from those games. But whereas earlier in the season I'd probably go into those games without much confidence, I am going in with a bit of confidence now, I think. What we don't want to do though is burst Southampton's bubble too much, because after us they've got Burnley, Newcastle, and Watford after us. So Southampton might be having a bit of a say in the relegation dogfight over the next month.
They can be a bit streaky, can't they, Southampton? I mean, it's probably a complete myth, but in my head, I suppose I'm basing this really on Leicester 2 years ago. The outside of the top teams, if Norwich do well in one, Norwich have teams where they can actually do quite well against, because their style maybe suits them a little bit, which was definitely felt like the case when Norwich played Leicester 2 years ago. Obviously, drew there and beat them at Carrow Road. Norwich City's under 23s have lost 2-0, by the way, to Aston Villa 23s, just to bring everyone live and up to date, should you be listening and watching live. I mean, Norwich have got to find 5 wins from somewhere, Rob. So St Mary's would be a good start. I mean, they were one of those teams where I just thought they didn't finish last season very well. And if there was going to be, potentially Southampton could be one of those teams that Norwich could try and finish above it if they mucked it up and Norwich got it right. And no one's really mucked it up, have they, other than Burnley, really?
Yeah. I mean, and teams are hurriedly unmucking it in terms of Newcastle. They're cleaning up, annoyingly. I think Southampton are really quite impressive at the moment. They are, as Dan said, on a really good run. Was it 2 losses in 14 games or something like that? And against some really, really strong oppositions, especially recently. In terms, I don't know if we're going to be talking about what our formations or what our team would be.
Throw it. Tell us, please, Rob, because everyone will just want 4-4-2-4.
Well, I'm not sure, 100% sure about the entire team, but I'm just thinking their midfield, the centre midfield, is so energetic and physical. I'd be surprised if Billy Gilmore played. I don't know. I don't think he copes well with a really physical midfield. Sorry, Dan.
Well, just remembering the game at Carrow Road where Ward-Prowse and Romeo dominated us in the first half, but then Smith changed it at half time, didn't he, and put Gilmore and McLean sitting on them instead, which stopped them playing. So I wonder if that's going to happen again, just have 2 people sitting on their playmakers.
Was Norman fit at that point?
Yes, I think it was the Wolves game where he came off. Lucas Rupp will be fit soon as well, but not in time for Friday. But I thought Billy did quite well on Saturday at Anfield, actually. Although I sort of slagged him off a bit for the moment between the 2 goals. But
Rob's right though, isn't it? You're right, Rob. Is it, because Southampton's good play all comes through Ward-Prowse. Essentially, he's an excellent footballer and the kind of footballer Billy Gilmore should probably be aspiring to be like, actually, in that sort of number 6 playmaker position, and stop him playing, and that tends to stop Southampton playing.
Yeah, and just to sort of contrast to our Jolis problems or sort of situation. Is it Broja for Broja?
Broja.
Southampton has been fantastic, and that's kind of the young player taking their opportunity when they can. I mean, he's going to be an absolute nightmare, it feels like, for the defenders to deal with at the weekend. But yeah, he seems to be doing well at the moment.
It's funny how bad Southampton were in that second half. I mean, I suppose they did have a chance to equalise very late on in that game. And also, I think the thing that probably gets forgotten is that Alex McCarthy did kind of chuck both goals into the net. It was pretty awful goalkeeping for both goals. So more of that, Alex, would be lovely. Elliot,
well, Fraser Forster's back, isn't he?
Oh, he is. No, good point. Yeah,
and apparently playing really well.
Looking secure. Yeah, he is looking secure. He's just so big, isn't he? Got like massive hands and feet on like really long limbs and a big head. Good old Fraser. What a guy. Norwich legend, anyway. What did Norwich need to do, Elliot, at Southampton?
Well, I think firstly they've got to be as resolute as they were in the first half against Liverpool. I'm really glad that I think the back four is getting more settled than ever. I think Brandon Williams has been so good since in the last couple of months. He looks like he's really playing for the shirt, which is so refreshing. And it doesn't look like he's thinking about leaving at the end of the season or anything like that. He's thinking about the job in hand, which has been brilliant. So we've got to be really solid at the back, as Rob said. Bray is a brilliant striker, so we've got to keep him quiet and not give away any free kicks in and around the box, because Ward-Prowse will probably bang it in.
Oh, I tell you what, I watched the match of the day 2 goal of the month competition again. Josh Sargent was obviously in there for his remarkable antics for his first goal at Watford. But that James Ward-Prowse free kick at Wolves is just something else. And still didn't win, which is Jonathan Woodgate's fault, but that's one for you, match of the day 2 for viewers. I won't actually be at Southampton. It's my birthday, so I'm away for a few days, which is also why next week's podcast will be back solely on the audio. So no live video of the podcast. Next week we'll do it again in a fortnight's time, but Steve Sanders will be back in the hosting chair with some audio magic. So make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast feed so you don't miss next week's podcast. But I think, other than keeping our fingers crossed for Friday, that is it for the 97th edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that is off to reschedule its hotel for Leeds away with a really angry face. If you're yet to do so, make sure you subscribe via your podcast player of choice. The pod is available free for everyone on your usual player. And as I said, also make sure you subscribe to these video feeds while we do them, and as and when we do them live like this as well. Ratings and reviews wherever prompted are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or topic proposals, then you can sling me a direct message on Twitter with the handle at Michael J. Bailey. A big thank you to our wonderful guests this evening. Dan, thank you so much.
Cheers, Michael.
Stellar work as always. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. I hope we get to do it again.
Yes, yeah, looking forward to it already. Cheers, Michael. Thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure. Elliot, likewise, although you do need to have a song next time.
I'll have a song. I'll have it ready to go. Don't worry. Thanks so much for having me, Michael. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much. We will be back next week with a fresh bout of Canaries Capers in another On the Ball Norwich City podcast. Until then, never mind the danger. And we're clear. Dan, Rob, Elliot, all you Twitterkers out there, welcome to the latest edition of Wits End. If any of you have stumbled across this for the first time somehow and still wondering what's going on and why the podcast hasn't finished, listen to On the Ball podcast number 42, which explains it all there. That went live on September the 8th, 2020, which you'd think would be our most listened to podcast if everyone was trying to work out what this was. But there we go. You can email this bonus part of the podcast directly with an email to twitterkers@icloud.com. That is Twitter, KERS @icloud.com, or use the hashtag Twitterkers on Twitter. Just don't explain what it refers to, because this is a secret club for only those who discover it. And I can just put that up on here. There you go. Took a bit of thinking. Dan, what should we talk about?
Well, that's a bit of pressure. I was thinking when you mentioned Elliot being a song laureate earlier.
Yes.
Elliot, have you had a stab at doing a chant for Michael here? And can that be a challenge for next time you're on?
Wow, I'll get it going in the Barclay before we bring it on here.
Oh,
Do you reckon?
you can try. I don't see anyone joining in with that, unless it's abusive and hilarious. Which maybe that's the way to go. Maybe
It's
that's
likely
the way
to be abusive, I'd imagine.
I hope so. I hope so. That's fair enough. Well, you know,
Can you imagine if you were a player and didn't like the chant that's directed at you? So I don't know, like Max Aaron's not liking David Bowie. Prefers Neil Diamond or something like that, so hates the Starman chant. If you have to listen to that every game, do you think you'd suck it up, or would you get annoyed?
You'd have to suck it up if they're singing your name. I think whatever. I mean, I don't know whether Max Aaron likes David Bowie or not. I can imagine. What do you think?
He'll love his chant.
He must love it. Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think.
Go on, Michael.
Well, I was going to say, I'm trying to think if any player has ever brought up that they didn't like their chant. I think the ego automatically kicks in. It's like, they're singing about me. I don't even care what they're singing. I can't. I don't know if you. I mean, Dan, you've worked in a football club, so you probably had that conversation with more players.
I mean, players tend to hate a lot of stuff that they probably would never admit publicly. But I've never heard that about their songs. What I used to enjoy was Wes's teammates singing along to Wes's song. That was a big hit among the players,
and that's a point, isn't it? That they do pick up, especially when a team's going well and players getting songs. The teammates will sing it at the players themselves, because that certainly happened each of the title-winning seasons.
There was the song about Hernandez and to do with Argos, wasn't there? They must have found that one quite amusing.
Oh, is it sad? I can't remember that.
I can't remember how the song went. No.
I think it might have one swear word in it, but it was a good song and it was pretty funny. Just about when he went to Argos to buy something. Like, you know, he was taking a picture outside Argos, wasn't he? The players must have found that one amusing.
I mean, I imagine he's still sponsored by Argos just at Birmingham now. While I'm there.
Well,
but that
when he went
feels like such a long time ago, doesn't it?
When he went to Middlesbrough used Argos in their announcement video. I think was it Middlesbrough?
Yes,
it was Middlesbrough. Yeah. They used Argos again, so the legend lives with him. You rather have, if you're a player, would you rather not have a song or a song you don't like chanted about you? It must be quite sad to not have a song.
Song I don't like, 100%.
Love that.
At least you feel you feel a bit of love then, at least, don't you?
Yeah. That's all they want. That's all they want, just to feel a bit loved. Let's we've got one thing we can discuss here from Jack Cronin. With the announcement of the return of Masters football, who knew? Don't know if that escaped us all. Who would be your 6 starters in a Norwich team? I mean, he's asking for 3 subs as well, but we don't have to do that necessarily.
I'll just quickly say hi to Jack Cronin, because that's our mate, being Rob's mate. So he's asked a great question there.
Yes, everyone wave to Jack.
Hi, Jack.
There you go. I don't know. Okay, well, we need a team then. I mean, subs seems a bit of a stretch. Sorry, Jack, but we'll do the 6 in the team. I mean, what is a Masters formation? Is what, keeper 3-1-2? Am I thinking about this too much?
Quite defensive, really, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe not that. Well, 2-2-2. That'd be Ralph Rangnick, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Apparently, I just had a quick Google, and it's over 35 is the criteria for a Masters player.
Okay, well that's all right. That's okay. So Wes, Obs.
Yeah, would Cambridge let him?
He's going to be fit, isn't he? He's going to be fit. He's already, you're not going to.
Well, he barely plays away games for Cambridge, does he? So he can turn up when Cambridge are playing away. He can turn up in the Masters game.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Okay, so we've got Wes. Who else?
Hucks and Holty still play, don't they?
Yeah, Huckabee in there.
Okay, I'm going to write these down. So we've got Wes, Hucks, Holty. I mean, we're going to need someone to put in a tackle.
We've got to have a really solid defender who does everything.
Adam Drury.
Okay, nice.
You can maybe
6, including the keeper, obviously.
You could stick Brian Gunn in goal, just because the size of the goals in Masters football probably are conducive to Brian Gunn.
Yeah, I was going to go Gunn or Green.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Oh no, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to answer that. Yeah, okay, we'll go with
No,
Dan's
go on,
suggestion of Gunny. But yours was a good shout too, Elliot. Okay, so we've got one space on. Well, in my little diagram, it's basically right back. But we haven't got. Well, you did have Wes in midfield. I'm literally now drawing it out as if I was doing an athletic graphic. Yeah, right back, right. So, or a right-sided defender. We've not got much height. Is that an issue in Masters football?
There's probably not that many long balls being played. I don't know. Maybe there is. I can imagine it gets a bit stretched towards the end if they're all over 50.
True. Maybe Ian Culverhouse probably keeps himself fit as a manager.
Cully. Okay.
Is that showing our age, Ian Culverhouse?
Maybe. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you want someone who's only just turned 30. Mark Edworthy, is he still playing? Don't know.
Michael Turner, someone like that.
Michael Turner.
Darren Kenton. I don't know.
Darren Kenton.
Darren Kenton would be a good shout.
We'll go with Darren Kenton. All right, Darren Kenton. There we go. So we've got our. Thanks for the question, Jack. We've got our Super Six of or whatever it is. What is it? Masters, our Norwich Masters team of in goal, Brian Gunn. At right back, Darren Kenton. Left back, Adam Drury. In the hole, which is just the middle bit, where's Houlihan? And then up top, Darren Huckabee and Grant Holt. It's a good team, isn't it?
Good team.
I think we nailed that.
Who's
Please, if
managing
anyone's...
that then?
Yeah, who is managing it? Good shout. Peter Grant?
Sure.
Right.
Give it to Brian Gunn as well. He can manage
Player
it.
manager.
Yeah.
Player manager. Love that. Gunny's player manager. Job done. Well, I think we've nailed that. If anyone's got a better suggestion for, and I want to hear all of your Norwich Masters six-a-sides, let us know. It'd be great to hear them. You can send it in an email to twitterkers@icloud.com or use the hashtag twitterkers. And it'd be great to see your Norwich Masters 6, because there's probably a whole plethora of players we've either insulted or just left out and completely forgotten about.
Do you think any of them listen to this, Michael?
No. Or they probably wouldn't want to admit that they do. So it's going to be one or the other. Right. Well, I think that only leaves Kenny Other Business. Kenny Other Business? Dan, Kenny Other Business?
No, I'm just looking forward to Elliot's Michael Bailey chant next time.
No pressure. If you do an Andrew Omabamidele one, then you can get out of the Michael Bailey one. I think that's allowed there.
That doesn't seem fair to me.
You've made me say my own name in the third person, which I'm very uncomfortable with most of the time. Well, in that case, I think we'll wrap up with this week's Wits End. I'll just say it again, Rob, Elliot, absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on. I hope we do it again very soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers, Michael.
Lovely, top stuff. Dan, as always, absolute pleasure.
Cheers, Michael.
If on 3 you could all say goodbye, that'd be great. 1, 2, 3.
Goodbye.
Bye.
There you go. Look at that. And they are gone. And that was a lovely podcast. Hope you all enjoyed it. Remember to get in touch if you so wish. You can send us a tweet or a tweet with the hashtag Twitterkers, or send us an email directly. Special email address, twitterkers@icloud.com. But until next time, that's a wrap. And you know what? That is actually it for the podcast. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I now will get on with editing this and then disappearing, as I've got lots of work to get on with the next few days. Have a brilliant rest of your week. Enjoy Southampton if you're following it. And I'll see you the following week ahead of the Liverpool Cup game, which of course we all want to win because we lost the Premier League game. So that's all grand. Have a lovely time. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you all very soon.